her face has changed now that she has peace. Don't be confused. It wasn't $500 that did all that. What caused Lily's liberation was when we found hope. She has hope that she has never had before. She has hope because she has a sense of power and control over money. Money has been an enemy her whole life, and now that she has tamed it, money is going to be Lily's new lifelong companion. How about you? Now is the time to decide, is this theory or is it real? Am I a simpleton kook? Have I found something that works? Keep listening. We will decide together.
Another total money makeover success story. My name is Stephen. I'm 28, I'm debt-free, and I have brain cancer. I found Dave Ramsey on the radio and became a fan immediately. Growing up, I had accepted debt as a part of life. At first, I tried to get my wife Sandy to buy into the total money makeover plan. To say she was reluctant might be the understatement of the year, especially when she figured out we would have to sell her 2000 Toyota 4Runner to become debt-free. We sat down together and looked at our overall financial picture. We owed about $46,000. We knew we had to change. She started tuning in today, and we started discussing our finances. We agreed to start the baby steps mentioned in the total money makeover. We simply followed what Dave taught. It took us 12 months to kill $46,000 in debt. We sold a bunch of stuff. We moved twice to save money on rent. As Dave would say, we got gazelle intense. Every sacrifice was worth it. We never felt more alive. After becoming debt-free, we were able to give our part-time business a full-time chance. Still following Dave's advice, we opened a medical savings account, MSA, and secured 20-year term insurance. Along with deciding to become debt-free, the MSA and term insurance have literally saved our lives. This past year, I was diagnosed with an inoperable form of brain cancer at the ripe old age of 28. The MSA that we chose has a $5,000 deductible, but it covers 100% of anything above the deductible. My medical bills approached $100,000 within the first 2 months. The MSA, along with our term insurance, saved our financial lives. Even after I'm gone, I know my beautiful 23-year-old wife will be taken care of. It's all because of Dave's advice. I can't imagine worrying about making payments on $46,000 of debt and worrying about coming up with the cash to cover our part of an 80-20 insurance plan, or wishing I'd taken the time to set up term insurance to take care of my wife. Thanks to Dave, Cindy and I can stand side by side and fight this fight. With God's help, we will win. Steve, self-employed.
Chapter 7. The Debt Snowball. Lose weight fast. Really. Your total money makeover is dependent upon using your most powerful tools. I believe with everything within me that your most powerful wealth-building tool is your income. Ideas, strategies, goals, vision, focus, and even creative thinking are vastly important. But until you get control and full use of your income to build wealth, you will not build and keep wealth. Some of you might inherit money or win a jackpot. That is dumb luck, not a proven plan to financial fitness. To build wealth, you will have to regain control of your income. The bottom line is that it is easy to become wealthy if you don't have any payments. You may get sick of hearing it, but the key to winning any battle is to identify the enemy. The math is revealing. The typical American with a $40,000 annual income would normally have an $850 house payment and a $350 car payment, with an additional $180 payment on the second car. Then there is a $165 student loan payment, and the average credit card debt is about $12,000, making those monthly payments around $185 per month. Also, this typical household will have other miscellaneous debt on things like furniture, stereos, or personal loans on which they pay an additional $120. All these payments total $1,850 per month. If this family were to invest that, instead of sending it to creditors, they would be a cash mutual fund millionaire in just 15 years. After 15 years, it gets really exciting. They'll have $2 million in 5 more years, $3 million in 3 more years, $4 million in 2.5 more years, $5 million in 2 more years. So they will have $5 million after 28 years. Keep in mind, this is with an average income, which means many of you make more than this. If you make $40,000 and have fewer payments, you have a head start, since you already have more control of your income than most people. With a take-home pay of $2,850, could you invest $1,850 if you had no payments? All you have to pay for is utilities, food, clothes, insurance, and other miscellaneous expenses. That would be tight, but doable. If you do that for just 15 years, you will have a pinnacle experience. I will explain that later. Many of you listening are convinced that you could become wealthy if you could get out of debt. The problem is now that you are feeling more and more trapped by the debt. I have great news. I have a foolproof but very difficult method for getting out of debt. Most people won't do it because they are average, but not you. You have already figured out that if you will live like no one else, later you can live like no one else. You are sick and tired of being sick and tired, so you are willing to pay the price for greatness. This is the toughest of all the baby steps to your total money makeover. It is so hard, but it is so worth it. This step is where all your broke friends and relatives will make fun of you or join you. This step requires you to shave your head and drink the Kool-Aid. Just kidding, but not too much. Your focused intensity has to go off the scale. If you really believe that wealth building will no longer be a dream, but a reality, if you had no payments, you will be willing to do bizarre and sacrificial things to have no payments. Time to pay off the debt. Baby step 2, start the debt snowball. The way we pay off the debt is called the debt snowball. The debt snowball process is simple to understand, but will require truckloads of effort. Remember what my pastor said, it isn't complicated, but it is difficult. We have discussed that personal finance is 80% behavior and 20% head knowledge. The debt snowball is designed the way it is because we are more concerned with modifying behavior than correct mathematics. You'll see what I mean shortly. Being a certified nerd, I always used to start with making the math work. I have learned that the math does need to work, but sometimes motivation is more important than math. This is one of those times. The debt snowball method requires you to list all of your debts in order of smallest payoff balance to largest. List all your debts except your home. We'll get to that in another step. List all of your debts, even loans from mom and dad or medical debts that have 0 interest. I don't care if there is interest or not. I don't care if some have 24% interest and others have 4% interest. List the debts, smallest payoff to largest. If you were so fabulous with math, you wouldn't have debt, so try this my way. The only time to pay off a larger debt sooner than a smaller one is some kind of big-time emergency, such as owing the IRS and having them come after you, or in situations where there will be a foreclosure if you don't pay it off. Otherwise, don't argue about it. Just list the debts, smallest to largest. The reason we list smallest to largest is to have some quick wins. This is the behavior modification over math part I referred to earlier. Face it, if you go on a diet and lose weight the first week, you will stay on that diet. If you go on a diet and go 6 weeks with no visible progress, you will quit. I don't care if you have a master's degree in psychology, you need quick wins to get fired up. And getting fired up is super nagging $52 medical bill or that $122 cell phone bill from 8 months ago, your life is not changed that much mathematically yet. You have, however, begun a process that works, and you will be fired up about the fact that it works. After you list the debts, smallest to largest, pay the minimum payment to stay current on all the debts except the smallest. Every dollar you can find from anywhere in your budget goes toward the smallest debt until it is paid. Once the smallest is paid, the payment from that debt plus any extra found money is added to the next smallest debt. Trust me, once you get going, you will find money. When the debt number 2 is paid off, you take the money that you used to pay on number 1 and number 2, and you pay it plus any found money on number 3. When 3 is paid, you attack 4, and so on. All the money from old debts and all the money you can find anywhere goes on the smallest until it is gone. Attack! Every time the snowball rolls over, it picks up more snow and gets larger, until by the time you get to the bottom, you have an avalanche. Most people get to the bottom of the list and find that now they can pay well over $1,000 per month on a car loan or a student loan. At that point, it won't take long to bust out and be debt-free except for the house. That is baby step 2. Use the debt snowball to become debt-free except for your home. The major elements of making the debt snowball work are using a budget, getting current before you start, smallest to largest payoff, no cheating, sacrifice, and focused intensity. Total, sold out, focused intensity is possibly the most important. This means saying to yourself and meaning it, to the exclusion of virtually everything else, I'm getting out of debt. Proverbs 6:1 and 5, loosely paraphrased, says, if you have signed surety, my son, surety is Bible talk for debt, deliver yourself like the bird from the hand of the fowler and the gazelle from the hand of the hunter. I remember reading that Bible verse and thinking what a cute little animal metaphor it was for getting out of debt. Later that week, I was surfing channels one day and hit the Discovery Channel. I noticed they were filming gazelles. The gazelles were peacefully grazing around. Of course, you know the Discovery Channel wasn't there just for the gazelles. The next camera shot was of Mr. Cheetah sneaking up in the bushes looking for lunch. Suddenly, one of the gazelles got a whiff of Mr. Cheetah. The other gazelles noticed the alarm and soon also were on edge. They couldn't yet see the cheetah, so out of fear of running at him, they froze until he played his cards. Realizing he had been discovered, Mr. Cheetah decided to give it his best shot and leaped from the bushes. The gazelles all yelled, "Cheetah!" Well, not really, but they did run like crazy in 14 different directions. The Discovery Channel reminded viewers that the cheetah is the fastest mammal on dry land. He can go from 0 to 45 miles per hour in 4 leaps. The show also proved that because the gazelle will outmaneuver the cheetah instead of outrunning him, the cheetah will tire quickly. As a matter of fact, the cheetah only gets his gazelle burger for lunch in 1 out of 19 chases. The gazelle's primary hunter is the fastest mammal on dry ground, yet the gazelle wins almost every time. Likewise, the way out of debt is to outmaneuver the enemy and run for your life. An obvious step to working the debt snowball is to stop borrowing. Otherwise, you will just be changing the names of the creditors on your debt list. So you must draw a line in the sand and say, I will never borrow again. As soon as you make that statement, there will be a test. Trust me. Your transmission will go out. Your kid will need braces. It is almost as if God wants to see if you are really gazelle intense. At this point, you are ready for a plastectomy, plastic surgery to cut up your credit cards. A permanent change in your view of debt is your only chance. No matter what happens, you have to pursue the opportunity or solve the challenge without debt. It has to stop. If you think you can get out of debt without huge resolve to stop borrowing, you are wrong. You can't get out of a hole by digging out the bottom. Sometimes your debt snowball won't roll. When some people do their budget, there's barely enough to make all the minimum payments and nothing extra to pay on the smallest. There is no push to get the snowball snowball rolling. Let me offer another image to help you better understand this problem and the solution. My great-great-grandfather ran a timber operation in the hills of Kentucky and West Virginia. In that bygone era, after cutting the timber, they would put the logs into the river to float them downstream to the sawmill. The logs would build up at a bend in the river, and a traffic jam of wood occurred. Sometimes the loggers would break the jam loose by pushing the logs. Other times they would have to get radical before a real mess occurred. When it got bad, they would break the log jam by throwing dynamite into the middle of the logs that were blocking the progress. As you can imagine, this created a dramatic effect. When the dynamite blew, the logs and pieces of logs would fly into the air. After working so hard to cut the trees, some of them were a total loss. They had to blow up some of the timber to get the rest of the crop to market. That's the sacrifice the situation required. Sometimes that is what you have to do with the stopped-up budget. You have to dynamite it. You have to get radical to get the money flowing again. One way to do that is to sell something. You can sell lots of little stuff at a garage sale, sell a seldom-used item on the internet, or sell a big, precious item through the classifieds. Get gazelle intense and sell so much stuff that the kids are afraid they are next. Sell things that make your broke friends question your sanity. If your budget is stopped up and your debt snowball won't roll on its own, you are going to have to get radical. Watching heroes across the nation get out of debt with gazelle intensity, believe me, I have seen them sell things. One lady sold 350 goldfish from her pond for $1 each. Men have sold their Harleys, boats, knife collections, or baseball cards. Ladies have even sold things like non-family antiques. Keep the heirlooms because you can't get them back. I don't recommend selling your home unless you have payments above 45% of your monthly take-home pay. Usually the home isn't the problem. I do recommend that most people sell the car with the most debt on it. A good rule of thumb on items except the house is this. If you can't be debt-free on it in 18 to 20 months, sell it. If you have a car or a boat that you can't pay off in 18 to 20 months, sell it. It is just a car. Dynamite the logjam. I used to love my car too, but I found keeping that huge debt while trying to get out of debt was like running a race wearing ankle weights. The number of people I talk to about this who will not throw dynamite into their logjam to get the money flowing makes me sad. They can see that the logs will never get to market. They will never have wealth, but they just can't stand the thought of blowing up a few of them so the rest will get down the river. Translation, I love my stupid car more than the idea of becoming wealthy enough to give cars away. Don't make that mistake. More income will break up your logjam. If your budget is too tight to get the debt snowball rolling, working extra hours can increase income in order to increase the speed of debt repayment. I don't like the idea of working 100 hours per week, but sometimes extreme situations require extreme solutions. Temporarily, just for a manageable period of time, the extra job or overtime may be your solution. I picked up a pizza last night, and as the guy behind the counter started walking toward his car with a stack of pizzas to be delivered, he saw me and stopped. Smiling, he said, "Hey, Dave, I'm here because of you. Only 3 more months and I'm debt-free." This was not some 17-year-old teenager. This was a dad, a 35-year-old guy who wants to be free. There's a young single guy that works on my team. He is gazelle intense about becoming debt-free. He works here until 5:30 every day, and he smiles as he leaves to work for UPS for another 4 or 5 hours virtually every night. Why are all these guys smiling? They work hard and unbelievable extra hours, so why would they smile? They smile because they caught the vision. The vision, living like no one else. Sooner or later, they can live like no one else. What about saving for retirement while the snowball's rolling? Matt asked me on the radio show. About another subject that people have trouble with on Baby Step 2. Matt wanted to know if he should stop his 401k contributions to get his debt snowball moving. He really didn't want to stop contributing, especially the first power to become debt-free very quickly, then stop your retirement plan contributions, even if your company matches them. If you are radically gazelle intense, the speed of your debt freedom will enable you to return to that 401k with the match in just a matter of months. Imagine how much you'll be able to contribute without payments. The average person who throws the dynamite and is gazelle intense will be debt-free except for their home in 18 months. If for some reason you are stuck in an extremely deep hole, you may want to continue doing some retirement saving. An extremely deep hole is not defined by your unwillingness to apply yourself. Penny's air conditioner went out in the dead of summer. The repairs were $650, which she took from her emergency fund. Now what does she do? Penny needs to put the debt snowball temporarily on hold. She will continue to make minimum payments and go back to the first step until she gets back up to $1,000 in her emergency fund. If she doesn't, soon she will have nothing in savings, and when the alternator on the car goes out, she will reopen some credit card account. And the same applies to you. If you use the emergency fund, return to baby step 1 until you have refunded your beginner emergency fund. Then move right back to your debt snowball, baby step 2. Because of debt consolidation loans and other mistakes, many people have a home equity loan or some kind of large second mortgage. What should be done with this loan? Is it put in the debt snowball or just called a mortgage and not dealt with at this step? Generally speaking, if your second mortgage is more than 50% of your gross annual income, you should not put it in the debt snowball. We will get to it later. If you have a small business loan or have borrowed on your credit cards for business, this is personal debt. Treat small business debt like any other kind of debt. List it with your other debts, smallest to largest, in the debt snowball. If your business debt is larger than half your gross annual income or half your home mortgage, hold the payoff on that size debt until later. The only other larger debt to delay is mortgages on rental properties. Stop buying more rental property, but hold that debt payment until later. After your home mortgage is paid off, in a later baby step, you should snowball your rental mortgages. Other than the home mortgage, larger second mortgages, business loans, rental mortgages are the only things that aren't paid off in baby step 2. If you are fired up, normally this will happen within 18 to 20 months. Many people find a way to shorten the time with sheer intensity, and God tends to pour blessings on people going in a direction He wants them to go. The debt snowball is very possibly the most important step in your total money makeover for 2 reasons. 1, you free up your most powerful wealth-building tool, your income, during this step. 2, you take on the entire American culture by declaring war on debt. By paying off your debt, you show that the total money makeover of your heart has occurred, paving the way for a total money makeover of your actual wealth. Chapter 8. Finish the emergency fund. Kick Murphy out. When you reach this step, you have $1,000 cash and no debt except your home mortgage. You have pushed with such focused intensity that the ball is now rolling. You have momentum on your side. You are beginning to see the power of being in control of your largest wealth-building tool, your income. Now that you don't have any payments except the house, baby step 3 should come quickly. A fully funded emergency fund covers 3 to 6 months of expenses. What would it take for you to live 3 to 6 months if you lost your income? Financial planners and financial counselors like myself have used this rule of thumb for years, and it has served my Total Money Makeover participants well. You start the emergency fund with $1,000, but a fully funded emergency fund will usually range from $5,000 to $25,000. The typical family that can make it on $3,000 per month might have a $10,000 emergency fund as a minimum. What would it feel like to have no payments but the house and $10,000 in savings when it rains? Remember what we said about emergencies. It will rain. You need an umbrella. I'm going to bang on this drum again because it is vital if your makeover is going to be permanent. The worst time to borrow is comes Murphy. Remember how we discussed that problems seem to be, and I believe actually are, less frequent when you have your fully funded emergency fund. Don't forget that the emergency fund actually acts as Murphy repellent. So what is an emergency? Emergencies include paying the deductible on medical, homeowners, or car insurance after an accident, a job loss or cutback, medical bills resulting from an accident or unforeseen medical problems, or a blown transmission or engine in a car that you need to function. All these are emergencies. Something on sale that you need is not an emergency. I want to start a business is not an emergency. Prom dresses and college tuition are not emergencies. Beware not to rationalize the use of your emergency fund for something that you should save for and purchase. Sharon and I would never use the emergency fund without first discussing it and being in agreement. We also would never use the emergency fund without sleeping on the decision and praying about it. Our agreement, our prayer, and our cooling off period will help us determine if this decision is a rationalization, a reaction, or a real emergency. Keep your emergency fund in something that is liquid. Liquid is a money term that means easy to get to with no penalties. I use growth stock mutual funds for long-term investing, but I would never put my emergency fund there. If my car engine blew, I would be tempted to borrow to fix it rather than cash in my mutual fund because the market is down. We always want to wait on it to go back up. That means I have an emergency fund in the wrong place. For the same reason, don't use certificates of deposit for your emergency fund because typically you will be charged a penalty for taking an early withdrawal. I suggest a money market account with no penalties and full check writing privileges for your emergency fund. We have a large emergency fund for our household in a mutual fund company money market account. Keep in mind that the interest earned is not the main thing. The main thing is that the money is available to cover emergencies. Your wealth building is not going to happen in this account. That will come later in other places. This emergency fund is to protect you against storms, give you peace of mind, and keep the next problem from becoming debt. So how much money should be in your emergency fund? We said it should be enough to cover 3 to 6 months of expenses. But should you go with the 3 months or 6 months? If you earn straight commission or are self-employed, you should use the 6 months rule. If you are single, or if you are a one-income married household, you should use the 6 months rule because a job loss in your situation is a 100% cut in household income. If your job situation is unstable, or there are chronic medical problems in the family, you too should lean toward the 6 months rule. If you have a quote-unquote steady, secure job, where you've been with the company or government agency for 15 years and everyone is healthy, you could lean toward the 3-month rule. Customize your emergency fund to your situation and to how your spouse deals with the feeling of risk. This fund is for actual protection and peace of mind. So the spouse who wants this fund to be higher wins. In baby step 2, I instructed you to use all non-retirement savings and investments to pay down your debt. Clean everything out and become debt-free except for the house. Use all savings and investments that don't have a penalty for withdrawal, like retirement plans. If you used savings that you had in baby step 2, start the debt snowball, you cleaned out even the emergency fund down to baby step 1, save $1,000. Now is the time to rebuild your emergency fund by replacing any money you may have used to pay debt. Many times I've met someone who has $6,000 in savings at the bank, making 2% interest, and $11,000 in credit card debt. The very thought of using $5,000 of that savings to pay the credit cards partially off is very hard. That $6,000 emergency fund is your security blanket, and fear rises up deep inside when someone like me mentions that you should use that money to snowball your debt. You are right to feel that fear and to question whether you should spend the $5,000 to pay down the debt. You should use that money only if you and your whole family are into a total money makeover. I know even if everyone is on board, Gazelle intends, and there is a plan, my suggestion still scares some of you. Good. Don't you think one of the things that makes the Gazelle intense is fear? As your total money makeover completely changes your money habits, you will use the emergency fund less and less. Sharon and I haven't touched our emergency fund in over 10 years. When we first started, everything was an emergency. But as the total money makeover begins to take effect, you have fewer and fewer things you can't cover in your monthly budget. What used to be a huge life-altering event will become a mere inconvenience. When you are debt-free and aggressively investing to become wealthy, taking a few months off from investing will put a new engine in a car. When I say the emergency fund is Murphy repellent, that is only partially correct. The reality is that Murphy doesn't visit as much. But when he does, we hardly notice his presence. When Sharon and I went broke, our heating and air system quit, and the repair cost $580. This was a huge, big, hairy deal. Last month, I had a new $570 water heater installed because the old one started leaking, and I hardly noticed. I wonder if the stress relief that your total money makeover provides will allow you to live longer. I keep saying that you are debt-free except for the house at this point and saving to finish the emergency fund. What if you don't have a home yet? I love real estate, but do not buy a home until you finish this step. A home is a blessing, but if you move into home ownership with debt and no emergency fund, Murphy will set up residence in the spare bedroom. Saving for a down payment or a cash purchase of a home should occur after becoming debt-free in Step 2 and after finishing the emergency fund in Step 3. That makes saving for a down payment maybe Step 3B. You should save for the home if you have the itch before moving on to the next step. There are all sorts of folks who are eager to work with you so you can make it happen sooner. But the definition of creative financing is too broke to buy a house. Next stop, serious wealth building. Well, you have made it. 2 or 2.5 years from the time you start your total money makeover, you can sit at the kitchen table with no payments other than for your house and 3 to 6 months worth of expenses and savings, which is thousands of dollars in a money market account. Close your eyes and let your emotions and your spirit visit that place. Wow. I know I see you smiling now. Once we've covered these basic steps and laid a foundation, the time has come to build some wealth. Remember, that is why we started a total money makeover. We wanted not just to be out of debt, but to become wealthy enough to give, retire with dignity, leave an inheritance, and have some expensive fun. Stay tuned for some big fun. Chapter 9, Maximizing Retirement Investing. Be financially healthy for life. I have a friend in his 40s who has a bodybuilder physique, but he is not some wild health nut. He watches what he eats, and he works out a couple of times a week. I have another friend in his 30s who diets fanatically, runs every day, lifts weights 3 times a week, but is still 40 pounds overweight. The second guy started his health journey a couple of years ago and is losing weight and getting into shape. The first muscle man maintains what he worked hard years ago to get. But he isn't working nearly as hard today. The total money makeover is the same way. Gazelle intensity is required to get to the wealth steps, but simple maintenance will keep your money muscles maintained. Keep in mind that my muscle man friend never eats 3 plates of food at a sitting. He is still aware he can lose his fitness, but he can look good and feel good with a lot less effort, assuming he remembers the principles that got him his great body in the first place. Gazelle intensity has allowed you to lose 100 pounds of debt, and get your cardio emergency fund ready. That foundation will allow you to become financially fit by toning your muscles. You have attacked your debt. It is gone. With the extra money after eliminating your debt, you attacked your emergency fund. It is funded. You are now at a crucial time. What do you do with the extra money that you poured into the emergency fund and debt payoffs? This is not the time to give yourself a raise. It is time to invest. Investing for retirement in the context of a total money makeover doesn't necessarily mean investing to quit your job. If you hate your career path, change it. You should do something with your life that lights your fire and lets you use your gifts. Retirement in America has come to mean save enough money so I can quit the job I hate. That is a bad life plan. Harold Fisher is 100 years old. He works 5 days a week at the architectural firm he founded. Mr. Fisher doesn't work because he needs money. He works because he finds joy in what he does. He's a designer of churches. His favorite saying is, people who retire early die early. Harold Fisher is financially secure and able to do what he wants, and that defines retirement the total money makeover way. When I speak of retirement, I think of security. Security means choices. That's why I think retirement means work is an option. You can choose to write a book, to design churches, or to spend time with your grandkids. You need to reach the point where your money works harder than you do. A total money makeover retirement plan means investing with the goal of security. You already possess the ability to quit your job, and if you don't like your work, you should consider doing that. If not today, develop a 5-year game plan for transitioning into what God designed you to do. However, don't wait until you're 65 to do what you love. That said, the money part does matter. You want to reach your golden years with financial dignity, and that will happen only with a plan. USA Today reported recently that 56% of Americans do not systematically prepare for retirement age by investing. Consumer Federation of America found that of people making less than $35,000 per year, 40% said the best way for them to have $500,000 at retirement age is to win the lotto. Wealth Builder magazine's poll found 80% of Americans believe their standard of living will go up at retirement. Talk about living in a fantasy. The reality is much colder. USA Today reports that out of 100 people age 65, 97 of them can't write a check for $600. 54 are still working and 3 are financially secure. Bankruptcies among those 65 and older have gone up 164% in the last 8 years. Getting older is going to happen. You must invest now if you want to spend your golden years in dignity. Investing with the long-term goal of security is not a theory to ponder. It is a necessity that you must act on now. Baby step 4. Invest 15% of your income into retirement. Those of you concerned about retirement are relieved that we've finally gotten to this step. Those who have been living in denial are wondering what all the fuss is about. Baby step 4 is time to get really serious about your wealth building. Remember, when you reach this step, you don't have any payments but a house payment. With only one payment, it should be easy to invest heavily. Before this step, you have ceased or have never started investing. And now, you have to really pour on the coals. Gazelle intensity in the previous steps has allowed you to be able to focus on growing a sizable nest egg. The tens of thousands of people we have met have helped me develop the 15% rule. The rule is simple. Invest 15% of before-tax gross income annually toward retirement. Why not more? You need some of your income left to do the next 2 steps, college saving and paying off your home early. Why not less? Some people want to invest less or none so they can get a child through school or pay off the home super fast. I don't recommend that because those kids' college degrees won't feed you at retirement. I don't recommend paying off the house first because I've counseled too many 75-year-olds with a paid-for house and no money. They end up selling the family home or mortgaging it to eat. You need some retirement investing at this stage before saving for college and the mortgage payoff. Plus, by getting started now, the magic of compound interest will work for you. When calculating your 15%, don't include company matches in your plan. Invest 15% of your gross income. If your company matches some or part of your contribution, you can consider it gravy. By the same token, do not use your potential Social Security benefits in your calculations. I don't count an inept government for my dignity at retirement, and you shouldn't either. I'm not taking a political position, but the mathematics of that system spell doom. If Social Security isn't there when you retire, you'll be glad you listened to my advice. If by some miracle Social Security is there when you retire, that will mean I was wrong. In that case, you'll have some extra money to give away. I'm sure you'll forgive me for that. Now that you've reached this step, you need to learn about mutual funds. The stock market has averaged just below 12% return on investment throughout its history. Growth stock mutual funds are what I recommend investing in for the long term. Growth stock mutual funds are lousy short-term investments because they go up and down in value. But they are excellent long-term investments when leaving the money longer than 5 years. My personal retirement funds and my kids' college are invested in the way I teach in Total Money Makeover. Here's a Reader's Digest version of my approach. I select mutual funds that have a good track record of winning for more than 5 years, preferably more than 10 years. I don't look at their 1-year or 3-year track records because I think long-term. I spread my retirement investing evenly across 4 types of funds. Growth and income funds get 25% of my investment. They are sometimes called large cap or blue chip funds. Growth funds get 25% of my investment. They are sometimes called mid-cap or equity funds. An S&P index fund would also qualify. International funds get 25% of my investment. They are sometimes called foreign or overseas funds. Aggressive growth funds get the last 25% of my investment. They are sometimes called small cap or emerging market funds. For a full discussion of what mutual funds are and why I use this mix, go to our website at daveramsey.com and visit my TMMO. The invested 15% of your income should take advantage of all the matching and tax advantages available to you. Always start where you have a match. When your company will give you free money, take it. If your 401k matches the first 3%, the 3% you put in will be the first 3% of your 15% invested. If you don't have a match, or after you have invested through the match, you should next fund Roth IRAs. There are some limitations as to income and situation, but most people can invest in a Roth IRA. The Roth grows tax-free. If you invest $3,000 per year from age 35 to age 65, and your mutual fund averages 12%, you will have $873,000 tax-free at age 65. You have invested only $90,000. 30 years times $3,000. The rest is growth, and you pay no taxes. The Roth IRA is a very important tool in virtually anyone's total money makeover. How much do you need to retire with dignity and security? How long will it take you to get there? You are secure and will leave a nice inheritance when you can live off 8% of your nest egg per year. If you make 12% on your money average and inflation steals 4%, 8% is a perfect number. If you make 12% and only pull out 8%, you grow your nest egg by 4% per year. That 4% keeps your nest egg and therefore your income ahead of inflation till death do you part. If you can live with dignity on $40,000, you need a nest egg of only $500,000. I would recommend that you have the largest nest egg possible because there are some really cool, non-greedy things to do with it later, like giving it away. If, when you run the calculations, you are afraid you won't make your goal by saving only 15%, keep in mind this is just baby step 4. Later steps will allow you to accelerate your investing while still having a life. with me for a moment? Dream that a 27-year-old couple with an average to below average income commit to a total money makeover. They get gazelle intense, and in 3 years, by age 30, they are at step 4. They invest 15% of their income. The average household income in America is $40,816 per year, according to the Census Bureau. Joe and Susie average would invest $6,000, 15% per year, or $500 per month. If you make $40,000 per year and have no payments except the house mortgage and live on a budget, can you invest $500 per month? Follow me here. If Joe and Susie invest $500 per month with no match into Roth IRAs from age 30 to age 70, they will have $5,882,386 tax-free. That is almost $6 million. What if I'm half wrong? What if you end up with only $3 million? What if I'm 6 times wrong? Sure beats the 97 out of 165-year-olds who can't write a check for $600. I would submit to you that Joe and Susie are well below average. They're losers. Why? In our example, they started at the average household income in America and in 40 years of work never got a raise. They saved 15% of income and never increased it by $1. There is no excuse to retire without financial dignity in the United States today. Most of you will have well over $2 million pass through your hands in your working lifetime. So do something about catching some of that money. Gail asked me one day if it was too late for her to start saving. Gail wasn't 27 like Joe and Susie. She was 57 years old. Life had dealt her some blows and had knocked much of the hope out of her. A total money makeover is not a magic show. You start where you are, and you do the steps. These steps work if you're 27 or 57, and they don't change. Would it have been better for Gail to start when she was 27 or even 47? Obviously. But once she's done with the pity party, she needs to start with baby step 1 and follow the total money makeover step by step to put herself in the best possible position. It is never too late to start. The past has passed. That's why they call it that. Start where you are, because that is your only option. Baby step 4 is not get rich quick. The investing you do systematically and consistently over time will make you wealthy. I think I see a smile broadening. You are going to win. Can you feel it? Can you see it? Your life is changing. This is fun. Now let's take another step.
Another total money makeover success story. What a financial and emotional mess I was in. I had a master's degree from the financial arena and had over $150,000, yes, that is 4 zeros, in debt. I'm one of those broke finance professors Dave talks about. Hey, I had some really fun stuff, but I couldn't enjoy it because of all the debt it caused. I was really paying what Dave refers to as stupid tax, doing something stupid that costs you money. So I decided to make a change. I sold my motor coach and got on a written budget for the first time in my life. To make a long story short, I've worked my way out of $116,000 of the debt. I don't have as many toys now, but I have a lot of peace. I'm actually getting good at my budget, which provides a lot more hope and direction than my degree and toys did. If you've got an income, you need the total money makeover. It will be the best thing you've done for yourself, your family, and your money. If I'd had this plan 40 years ago, I have no doubt that I'd be a millionaire today. Debt is not a tool. Camille, a school counselor.
Chapter 10. College funding. Make sure the kids are fit, too. Time to do something about the ever-famous college fund. Many of you have been wringing your hands while we walked through 4 baby steps and have not saved so much as a dime for those little cherubs. Some people in our culture have lost their minds about college education. We need to examine our culture's value system on the college issue. We have sold our young people so hard and so long on college, and we have begun to accept some myths about college degrees. College degrees do not ensure jobs. College degrees certainly don't ensure success. College degrees do not ensure wealth. College degrees only prove that someone has successfully passed a series of tests. Because we have turned the college degree into some kind of genie in a bottle formula to help us magically win in life, we go to amazingly stupid extremes to get one. I have been a millionaire, starting with nothing, 2 times before I was 40, and I attribute 15% of that to college knowledge, and 0% to the degree. The book Emotional Intelligence reported a similar finding. In studying successful people, the author discovered that 15% of success could be attributed to training and education, while 85% was attributed to attitude, perseverance, diligence, and vision. College is important, very important, but it is not the answer to all your kids' problems. I will be so bold as to say college isn't even a need. It is a luxury. This luxury is one of the first on my list. Not before retirement, not before an emergency fund, and certainly not as a reason to go into debt. Do some research on the cost of attending college. In some areas of study, and in a very few careers, where you graduate from will matter, but in most it won't. Pedigree means less and less in our culture today. How can you justify going into debt $75,000 for a degree when you could have gone to a state school and paid for it out of your pocket debt-free? You can't. The first rule of college is pay cash. The second rule is, if you have the cash or the scholarship, go. A couple of years ago, I met with the dean of the College of Business from the university where I graduated. At that time, the average college student graduated with about $15,000 in student loan debt after spending 3 of 4 years in an apartment, not the dorm, and eating off campus, not on the meal plan. The average student paid $5,000 more per year to live and eat off campus than to live in the dorm and eat cafeteria food. The student loans that they had to have or they wouldn't be able to go to college weren't for college at all. The student loans on average paid for an off-campus standard of living, and no debt was needed to get the degree, only to look good while getting the degree. Student loans are a cancer. We have spread the myth that you can't be a student without a loan. Not true. If you've planned your savings goals and don't have much room in the budget for college, don't panic. In past generations, students lived with relatives, slept in dorms, ate cafeteria food, worked, and endured other hardships to get a degree. Now, after harping on mindset, we can set some reasonable, attainable goals for saving for college. Maybe step 5, save for college. Virtually everyone thinks saving for college is important. However, hardly anyone saves for their kids' college education. Money Magazine and CBS Market Watch both quote the alarming statistic that 39% of Americans with kids don't save a dime toward college. 4% have saved less than $1,000, and 25% have saved between $1,000 and $10,000. That means 68% have saved nothing or close to nothing. On the other hand, by the time you get here in the baby steps, you'll have a strong foundation and money to save. If you don't have children, or your kids are grown and gone, you will simply skip this step. For everyone else, the college fund is a necessity. College tuition goes up faster than regular inflation. Inflation of goods and services averages about 4% per year, while tuition inflation averages about 7% per year. When you save for college, you have to make at least 7% a year to keep up with the increases. baby life insurance like Gerber or other whole life for babies to save for college is a joke, averaging less than 2% return. Savings bonds won't work either. Sorry, Grandma, because they average about 5%. Most states now offer prepaid college tuition, but remember that when you prepay anything, you simply break even with inflation. If tuition goes up 7% a year and you prepay it, you make 7% on your money. That is not too bad. Keep in mind that a decent growth stock mutual fund will average over 12% when invested long term. Let's do baby step 5 the right way. I suggest funding college, or at least the first step of college, with an educational savings account, ESA, funded in a growth stock mutual fund. The educational savings account, nicknamed the Education IRA, grows tax-free when used for higher education. If you invest $2,000 a year from birth to age 18 in prepaid tuition, that would purchase about $72,000 in tuition. But through an ESA in mutual funds averaging 12%, you would have $126,000 tax-free. The ESA currently allows you to invest $2,000 per year per child if your household income is under $200,000 per year. If you start investing early, your child can go to virtually any college if you save $166.67 per month, $2,000 per year. For most of you, baby step 5 is handled if you start an ESA fully funded and your child is under 8. If your children are older, or you have aspirations of expensive schools, graduate schools, or PhD programs, you will have to save more than the ESA will allow. I would still start with the ESA if the income limits don't keep you out. What if you have only a couple of years and will not be able to save much because you started your total money makeover late in life? First, plan on your child attending somewhere that is cheaper, living on campus, and eating cafeteria food. You must get creative and resourceful. Look into companies that have work-study programs. Many companies offer to pay for school and have struck tuition deals with local colleges to attract the labor force. UPS, for instance, has a program in many cities where you can work 20 hours per week sorting boxes at night, and they will pay your tuition for school during the day. The military isn't for everyone, but a young man who used to work for me got a free college education by serving 4 years in the Army. If full-time military service isn't for you, check out the National Guard. Take a high-rejection, high-paying summer sales job. There are countless stories of young people selling books or participating in similar programs to get through school. Some of these young guerrilla combat salespeople get more of an education in the summer trenches than they do in marketing class. A friend of mine made $40,000 selling in one summer. If you already have the student loans or don't want to get a loan in the first place, look into the underserved areas programs. The government will pay for school or pay off your student loans if you will go to work in an underserved area. These areas are typically rural or inner city areas. Most of these programs are for law or medicine. Probably my favorite method of funding school, other than saving for it, is unclaimed scholarships. There is more than $4 billion in unclaimed scholarship money every year. These scholarships are not academic or athletic scholarships either. They are of small to medium-sized dollar amounts from organizations like community clubs. The Rotary Club, the Lions Club, or the JCs many times have $250 or